Hello everyone and welcome to the 8th video in this tutorial series, and in this one we're going to be focusing on events. Now I'm not just talking about C# events, we're not going to be using those in this video. We are going to be using delegates and unity actions as we have been before, but we're talking about game events in this one where something different will happen for a certain amount of time. For example, in this video we're just going to be doing an event that swarms our player with the nanobot enemies we made in earlier videos. So as usual, let's just jump into the editor now. Okay guys, we are in the editor, and the first thing that we're going to do is go and create a new text for our timers so that we can record how long we've been playing the game for. So we're going to be setting this to our middle top, and our Y position is going to be -31, our width is going to be 250, and our height is going to be 45. And our font size is going up to 38, and the text we'll just put in numbers. And of course we want to center this, and that should be it for this. Now what we want to do is go to our scripts and create a new folder, and in here we're going to write game events and hit enter, open that up, and we're going to create a new script called event. We're going to create another new script called event controller, and I spelled that wrong but we'll fix that in a second. And we're going to create a third script called enemy spawner. Now let me rename this really quick. Event controller. And now we're going to go into Visual Studio and fix some things up. Okay, we're in Visual Studio, and the first scripts that we're going to be editing are the power-up controller and the game controller. So now that we're going to go to the power-up controller, and I'm just going to disable spawning all of our power-ups because I don't want the scene to be cluttered while I'm testing new features. So we see this call after time function here, and we're gonna move this one all the way over to our game controller because it's not very organized that it's in the power up controller. That was simply for testing purposes. So we're gonna keep this in the game controller, and we have to remove it from the power up here too. So we're just gonna be using the game controller class here to call after time, and the editor should like that and shouldn't throw any errors now. So we also have to go to our AI Nanobot, and in here we're going to have to change this destroy game object because this messes with our object pooling. So we're going to instead do game object dot set active false. And that should be it for all 4 of these scripts. And we're going to go back to the editor really quick to look at our other 3 scripts that we just made. Okay, we are back in the editor, and I'm going to rename this to our score text because we don't want to be unorganized, and this one is going to be called our timer. And now we can focus on our new scripts. So in the game controller we're going to be adding our event controller here, and oh, it's still misspelled here, so hop into Visual Studio really quick, change that to event controller, don't misspell that, and now we can drag this onto our game controller. Anyway, now we're gonna go in and edit all these. So if we go into Visual Studio and our event script, and we go in here, then we're going to change some stuff here. We're going to first remove our mono behavior, and now we're going to be creating 5 new variables. So first we're gonna write public float length. We're gonna write public list, which we're going to have to import. Unity action, which is also going to need to be imported. And now we're going to write actions, and then public unity action and action. So of course the stuff that's going to happen once the event starts, and then the stuff that's going to happen once the event ends. And then we're going to write a public string text. And now down here we're going to write public static list game object, thank you, event objects equals new list game object. Alright, and now we're going to write our constructor here. So we're going to write public event float length and list unity action actions, unity action and action, and then a string of text. Okay, and in here, this is self-explanatory. We're just going to be doing our normal setting values from a constructor, and I'm going to copy this over a few times just so that it's easy. And I will just put in actions here and action here and text in the last one. Now for our start function, we're going to be changing this to public, and we're going to put this down, and then here we're going to write for each Unity action in actions. We're going to call the action, and I'm going to tab this forward. Don't know why I didn't auto do that. We're going to write end action plus equals delegate, and it's going to be of our function end that we have not yet written, but we will write in just a second, so the compiler can yell at me until I'm done with that. And we're going to remove this update function, and instead we will write private void end. And here we're going to write if event objects dot count is greater than 0, then for each game object go in event objects, and we're going to write if go, so basically if the game object is instantiated, I believe, then go.setActive false. This is going to deactivate our game objects, and then we're going to clear our event objects. This is basically like getting rid of all the game objects, but we're setting them to inactive so that they stay consistent with our object pooler, because the object pooler is going to keep them stored. It'll never get rid of them unless we explicitly go in and do that. So this is just so that we don't throw any errors with destroying them, and keep it high performance by setting them inactive. So now we're done with our event script. So now we're ready to go to our enemy spawner script, so we'll just move on to that one. And in here, we're obviously going to be spawning enemies, or creating a system to do so. So the first thing we need is a public static dictionary. And we are going to fix this, and we'll put in a string and another string. And this is going to be called our enemies, and it's going to be a new dictionary of string and string. And of course, we're going to instantiate as we usually do. And the first one is going to be Nanobot. And we're going to copy our path to where the Nanobot prefab is. So we made ours in this folder last time. So I will close this off. And looks like, oh, never mind. Anyway, so that should be it for this one. I turned my insert off. And now we're going to write a function to actually spawn the enemies. So we'll make a static list returning function spawn enemies, and then here we'll write string name and int number, so the number of enemies to spawn, of course, and which enemy it is, and it has to be by this name so that the dictionary will actually find it. So here we're going to write list game object enemy spawn equals a new list of game objects. So now in here we're going to write for int I equals 0, I is less than number, I plus plus, and then here we're going to pick random points basically at the edges of the screen, and then we're going to make our enemies spawn outside of there, so that the player doesn't see them spawning in, so that the player will think, oh, they're just coming in from the sides. So we'll write int corner equals random dot range 0 and 4 since there are 4 borders on our screen. And we'll write int x equals 0 just to instantiate a variable for both x and y. Now we'll write vector2 offset equals vector2 dot 0. And the offset is basically going to be how far we're going to push it outside of the screen so that the player does not see it spawn. The player will only see it move into the screen on its own. So now we're going to write a switch based on our offset. Based on our corner. What am I talking about? So that we know which corner we're trying to pick. So the first case is going to be 0, of course. And in here we're going to write x equals random. X equals y. Random dot range 0 and the screen width. Screen dot width. And our y is going to be 0. And this is going to be our horizontal bottom border. And our offset dot y will equal -2. And then we're just going to break. And we'll copy this over 4 times. So that we can do 1. And in 1, this is going to be the same thing, but our y is going to equal screen.height. And this one is going to be the horizontal top border. Now with 2 and 3, these ones are going to be our vertical borders. So this one is going to be our left border, so the x is going to be 0. And the y is going to be between the 0 and the screen.height. And the offset of x is going to be, this one is going to be positive. I forgot to change this one. And this one is going to be -2, the x offset. And now we're going to do our vertical right border, which is down here. So our y is going to equal the same thing, and our x is going to be screen.width. And our offset.x is going to be a +2. Now that should be it for our switch, but just to make sure, we'll go over these. If we take 0, then this one will be our horizontal bottom border. And this one. Oh, are these y's returning errors? Oh, I forgot. Semicolons here. And that should be good. This looks good. Should be 0, this should be width. And our offsets are also correct. Okay. Now we're going to create a vector2 position. This is going to equal camera.main.screen to world point. There's going to be a new vector2 x and y plus the offset. Now we're going to make a new enemy. Game object enemy equals object pooler dot get pooled object enemies of name. And we'll make an enter between these two. We'll do enemy dot transform dot position equals position, and enemy dot set active true, and enemies spawned dot add enemy. And that is the end of our for loop. And outside, we're going to just return enemies spawned. And that is it for our spawn enemies function. We can delete these two functions here. Save, and that should be good. Now, moving on to our event controller, we're going to be writing some stuff in here. So we need 5 new variables. So we're going to need a float time, a string of time string, a public text. Oops. We need to include text. Timer. That's going to be the timer we made in the scene. Public public vector to next event cooldown range, and then we're gonna have our dictionary in here, so public static dictionary, and we need to of course do our quick action. We're gonna do string event, we call this events, equals new dictionary string event, and we're going to instantiate it here. So the first one is going to be nano swarm. We're going to write new event 10f, and then we're going to write new list, and I believe that we should be able to just do this. Oh yeah, it was because I didn't import it. Keep forgetting that. Anyway, so we're gonna close this off, and then in here, I don't know why it's not automatically making it, but in here we're going to write delegate event objects equals enemy spawner dot spawn enemies nanobot, and then we're going to write a 10 here to spawn 10 nanobots whenever we have a swarm. And that's it for our delegate. So now down here we're going to write a comma, and then we're going to write delegate game controller dot change points 100, and game controller dot ball dot transform dot position, just to store the position of, or to send the position of the ball so that we can print the points in the right place. And put a comma here, and nano swarm, oh, I'm gonna write nano swarm incoming. And now this is going to be used in a later video when we actually print a text whenever the event pops up, but for now we are going to leave that just how it is, and we should be able to close that off, and all should be well. Now in our start function we're going to write float, first I'm going to enter this down, we're going to write float next event time equals time.time plus unity engine dot random dot range next event cooldown range dot x and next event cooldown range dot y. And now we're going to start a coroutine of game controller dot call after time delegate call next game controller dot, oh oops, I bet we don't need game controller. We're going to be writing call next event here, and that is not yet written, but that will of course call our next event, and it will be after this amount of time, and we'll just comment this out so it doesn't give us any compiler errors. So we actually do need our update function, but it's for a different function that we haven't written yet, so we're going to do it right now. Public void draw timer, time equals time dot time, oops, system dot time span ts equals system dot time span dot from seconds time. Now time string is going to equal string dot format, and in here we're going to make this look like it's a clock. So here we're going to write 0 and then D2, and we're going to write a colon here, and we're going to write this again, 1 D2, another colon, another bracket, this is going to be 2, then colon, then D2, another bracket, and then that should be just about it. And now we're going to need ts.hours, ts.minutes, and then ts.seconds. Of course, we could include days if people were literally going to be playing the game for days, which I hope doesn't happen. I don't think it's humanly possible to play this game for a whole day, but I guess we'll find out. And we'll write timer.text equals time string. And that's it for our draw timer class, or function, sorry. We're going to void update. We're going to write draw timer in here. Now, we're going to write our begin event function. So in here we're going to write public void begin event. We're going to write string name. And in here we're going to write event next event equals events name. And then next event dot start, we're going to call that. And we're going to call start coroutine. And we're going to be using gameController.call after time, so we will copy this over. And in here we're going to be writing next event.endAction. So we will write this in here. Next event.endAction. And we're going to be doing this after next event.length. And that's it for our begin event function. Now we're going to write public void call next event. And here we're going to have string event name equals events dot element at random dot range 0 events dot count. And we're going to do dot key. And in here we're going to be doing the quick action to include system.link. And that's going to have this all work. And now we're going to go to float next event time equals time.time plus Unity engine dot random dot range. And in here we're going to write next event cooldown range dot x and next event cooldown range dot y. And then we're going to write begin event name. And now we're going to write a start coroutine, so we'll copy this one over, which we can uncommon now. Copying this one over. This is actually going to stay exactly the same, so that we can keep calling this over and over again, since the function is going to be calling itself. It's called recursion, if you're curious about it. And that should be it for our script. So now we're going to hop back into the editor and change some stuff there. Okay guys, we're back in the editor, and the first thing I want to look at is our event controller. And here you might have an issue if you're following along, because I had originally had this spelled out like this, but you want to make sure you spell it out like this with ER at the end and save that. Otherwise it's not going to know how to properly act to the script. And so now we're just going to go to our game controller here, and we're going to drag our timer in here to pull its text, and our timer should properly work here, and it does. And the next thing that we want to do is set a cooldown here. So I'm going to set this to 20 seconds. And normally it would be a range between the two, but I'm going to keep them at 20 because I just want it to run 20 seconds. Note that we will have a bug if we keep it at 10 seconds or under, because our nanobots are going to despawn, and with it we'll despawn all the new nanobots that we spawn, because they're all going to be under the events static list. So we would need to make sure that we're adding time on to the event that ends, but we will change that in a different video. For now, we're going to go to our nanobot first, because I noticed we had an issue with the layering. So this should be in layer 1, and this should be in layer 2. Now, while making this video, I realized that I had made a mistake in our script, and I'm going to show you in here. We should not be adding time.time here, since we're calling the function to happen after a certain amount of time. We're not calling it to happen at that time. That's my mistake. So now, I changed this to 11 here. So now basically every 11 seconds, we should be getting a new event that happens. And I did 11 because if it was 10 seconds, then the bots would despawn after the second event happened. So we have 11 now, and our bots all spawned here. They're swarming us, and we're going to be dodging them here. And there, more spawn right after because we have it at 11 seconds. And we can try new things. We'll try between like 30 and 40 seconds is probably my plan, just to keep the player on edge and have stuff happening. But that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Okay, guys, now before I go with this episode, I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I want to apologize for how long this video took to come out. I've had a pretty busy past week, but hopefully the episodes are going to start coming in sooner. I plan on making the next one probably in the next 2 days, and aside from that, my channel recently hit over 100 subscribers, and I am thankful for that, so thank you guys for that. Other than that, guys, just make sure to hit that like button if you like this stuff, and hit the subscribe button for more things like this, and thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.